Happy Thanksgiving, happy Turkey Day. My plans aren't happening until later, and I'm sitting here at my neighbor's house cat sitting, but I haven't given you my thoughts on Heretic yet. I saw it a few days ago, though, and I really wanted to talk about it while I still have the chance, and I really enjoyed this movie because this was something I didn't know much about going in. A lot of my friends were saying it was good, but like they weren't saying specifically why, and that's when I got interested because when people don't want to talk about it, but they're saying it's good, it means like there's some stuff that goes down in it that basically it has twists and turns, and that got me excited. So when I walked in, not knowing much about the plot, I was really invested. And this is a really fun slow build horror. It starts off with two Mormons spreading the word. They're knocking door to door, trying to essentially get people to talk about the religion with. And they finally knock across one door, and it's answered by the actor Hugh Grant, playing a character who's he's older, and he has a friendly facade about him. He seems interesting enough, and he seems nice enough, but the Mormons have this rule. They're two women, and they need to talk to essentially his wife. And if his wife's not present, then they can't go inside that house. So the whole movie starts off with that premise. And you're trying to figure out if Hugh Grant is a weirdo or not. And I really enjoyed it because I'm not going to give too much away. No spoilers here. But I really liked how this movie really seeped in the tension of that. This movie is a lot about focusing on what makes you uncomfortable in a scenario when you might not trust somebody, but you're not fully sure if even you're right about that just yet. So you're looking at every scenario, you're being observant of where you are. And I appreciate this movie a lot because I love movies that can take place in one isolated area or scenario and really just kind of lock the characters into that moment of tension. And I thought this movie did a great job at dealing with that and relishing in it. This is one of those movies that like I was waiting for it to end, but not because it was bad, but because I was actually feeling intense. I was feeling intense with the scenario and I needed that release. And I thought this movie did a great job at making you yearn for that and really building its time up and slowly, methodically, building tension slowly as the movie moves along. Even though it moves at a consistent pace that could easily become boring, it never does that. And I find that all the more impressive. And I think it comes with the performances. Everyone does such a great job in this film. The two main leads are excellent, and they're great co-leads because they're both interesting, they're both fascinating, and you want to know more about why they're in this religion to begin with. Why the Mormon? Did they turn to it? Were they raised in it? And it's really fascinating because that aspect of it specifically shows conversations that happen in this movie that are really interesting. This movie is a very conversation, dialogue, and monologue-driven movie, and I really appreciate it for that. A lot of the tension is built from dialogue between characters. The terror of if Hugh Grant is crazy is just as palpable as the conversations of just them debating religion, the philosophies of it, what religion means as a cultural implant on the rest of the world, what it has done for people. And I really like how this movie explored that thematically. I'm going to remember a lot of the conversations in this movie for years to come because I thought this movie did a good job at just kind of letting that take its time, letting that really seep into the themes of this film. I felt like this movie really trusted its pace and was very methodical with that, like I said before. And that comes from great conversation moments where you're like, you know what? Both of them are debating religion. Both of them are fascinating in that, but it's weird because Hugh Grant's character sometimes will come across as very passive-aggressive in a way that's very intense and almost threatening. But it's one of those scenarios where like you don't feel comfortable calling it out because he's doing it in a way where you're like, it could just be a new guy introducing himself, so he's saying things on accident, but also, is he taking digs at me? Like, does he know more about me than he should? And it's fascinating being in that question for a lot of this movie. I think it does a great job at just really letting you sit with that. There's something I really find really good about that in that. And it was very performance heavy, but that also comes from the cinematography. I think this movie shot great because a lot of the moments that you're feeling very close up, you don't leave the perspective of these three for most of the movie. And I thought this movie did a great job at keeping you locked in with the characters, but like a lot of the smaller moments, like the characters looking around, the two main leads, the women looking around and making sure they're safe. A lot of the moments where they're taking in little beats that Hugh Grant's character does while walking around, you're really focusing with them. You're looking around the house with them. You feel like you're in the toes of that paranoia, which isn't paranoia, honestly. It's justified concern because this guy comes across a little weird. And I think it does a great job at making you sit with that with the characters and really taking time of just lingering on a shot or lingering on a moment where a character's looking at something and they don't know if it's just quite safe. I thought this movie did a great job at living in that tension. And that's one of the things I'm going to remember the most about this movie because Heretic, I think, to me, is directed so well. Not only that, they have great moments of, it's not jump scares, but it has great moments of really where you just feel uncomfortable with the way a shot's presented to you and has very jarring editing in that sense, but not in a bad way, in a way that makes you really feel like there's an escalation of stakes, but not only with that, but with the editing, the way scenes start to slowly move together faster as the movie goes along. All of that I thought was brilliantly handled here, and I just thought this overall was a fascinating film that really got me thinking. I've been thinking about this movie since I saw it. It has great conversation scenes, great palpable horror and tension and the uncomfortable nature of what it means when you meet a stranger and you don't know how off they are quite just yet. I thought this movie did a great job at really relishing in that, and honestly, it has some of the most tense moments that are just people talking, and I think when a movie can really pull that off, it's one of the most memorable of the year. Heretic, to me, is one of my favorite movies of 2024. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great horror film, but just a great, also, movie that has interesting conversations and interesting points that are made, but also, I just love the themes of control, because I'm not saying they're points to follow necessarily, but they're points to study and really look at, because the whole, for me personally, I like the fact that this movie kind of explores that idea of even if you're kind of against religion, can't you still fall into a guise of control, something that is still about control, something that is still kind of grossly controlling other people and maybe hurting them unintentionally? I don't know. The way this movie kind of explored that, I found really fascinating. I thought Heretic really did a good job at cementing that for the year. I really enjoyed this movie. What did you guys think of Heretic? Thank you so much for watching Scattered Interviews. Thank you so much for watching our trailer for our horror project called Shift. So far, the reviews are climbing, and if you happen to just even scroll by it for a second, I really appreciate it. That means a lot. Thank you so much. I don't take that for granted. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Turkey Day. Thank you so much for watching our reviews in the channel, and if you want to subscribe and see more, come along, man. Let's talk movies. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.